Good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. And how are you today? I hope you're doing well. This day, my task is to report the topic about reflective teaching, and under that is reflective teaching lesson worksheets, processing questions for reflective teaching. But my part is about reflective teaching and reflective teacher. So the objectives of this lesson is at the end of the lesson, the students must be able to define what is reflective teaching and reflective questioning, construct reflective questions, understand the significance of reflective teaching. So what is reflective teaching, by the way? So reflective teaching is remembering. Of course, you need to remember thinking about and evaluating a teaching experience. So that is a process of self-observation and self-evaluation. And it means a professional development which begins in a classroom. So why? Why that it begins in a classroom? Because we need to make decisions about future plans and actions. Next is, what is a reflective teacher? A reflective teacher understands the things that influence the way he or she teaches. Of course, you must understand the topic, the things that you're going to teach. And as a reflective teacher, there's some characteristics that included the ability to self-analyze, identify their own strengths, weaknesses, of course, objectiveness, as well as good time management skills, organizations, patience, self-acceptance, and the will for and implementation of self-improvement of self. Say, every day we are learning, so every day we improve ourselves, and the teaching practices. And as a reflective teacher, there is a things such as practical theories about teaching, the teaching context included the class size, student language levels, and access to technology, textbooks, and curriculum. The third one is knowledge. Of course, if you are teaching, you need to have knowledge, of course, about the topic that you're going to teach, and then the attitude as a teacher and the values. So what does a reflective teacher do? So what is this? So we need to solve problems in the classroom, and we are aware of the assumptions of he or she brings to teaching. We need to understand the institutional and cultural context of his or her teaching. So cultural context is related to the society where individuals are raised in, and at how the culture affects the behavior. Then the participates in curriculum development and school changes. So we must. And then six professional development. So in reflective teaching, we have the steps that they need to do in our lesson planning. The first one, of course, is pick your topic. You need to pick your topic that is appropriate to be taught according to your subject. And then the second one is identify. So you need to identify what is the purpose. What course should I address? What do I want students to know or do? Why is the information important? And what's in it for students? So we need to, if you're going to pick your topic, you must, what is this? What do you call this? That is for the student easy to understand, easy to know, and easy to do. Because if you're going to teach them the very hard lesson, how could they get your lesson? How could they understand it? And the third one is gather information. Okay, get ready to plan. So you need to get suppose if you have your topic that is, if you're, for example, the arithmetic, how to solve the arithmetic, so there is a plan there. Then you can gather the information about what is about the topic that you teach for that day, and then how you access students prior, of course, and then what resource materials are available. So you should have the materials to do that, so that easy for them to understand, and then to easy for them to catch up the lesson that you're going to teach. Then what should be the balance between lectures and engagement activities? So you you need to balance that one. And then the number 4 is create plan. Okay, draft outline. So you need to draft your outline there. And then what should I teach first? So example, we're showing arithmetic. Okay. What is the first process to do? The second, what is the first process that we're going to do to solve the arithmetic? And then the second, the third, and then how can I hook students? How can I address multiple learning styles? Okay, you have your creative planning that is interesting to them. Because if you're going to teach without any creating a plan, okay, the students will be bored. The students will be they're going to play by themselves, and because they are bored, then how will I know students are learning? So how could you know if the students are learning? So it's okay, after you teach them, after you explain to them the process, the step by step, and how to solve that one, and then you're going to give them, and then you're going to ask them first. Ask them, so do you understand the lesson? If you have any question, just raise your hand and ask your teacher. And then if there is no question from the students, okay, that's the time that you're going to give them some exercises, so that you can know if they are learning or not, if they are listening, if they understand your lesson. And then that is a very important as a teacher, because if you're going to teach and teach and teach, and then the students, there is no any reaction, there is no any response from you, so the feedback will come back to you as a teacher, because there's some parents that they're going to say that, why my daughter, why my child is not gather learning. So if the teacher is teaching well, if the teacher is teaching, if the teacher is explaining it very well, so you must know if your student is learning or not. And then the number 5 is design your lessons, and then you need to add the details, if it is measurable, and how can you connect to the previous lesson. So example, today is Friday, and then your lesson is arithmetic, okay? And then tomorrow, yesterday, before you get your topic that is connected also in your previous lesson. Okay, yeah, that is a very important. Your lesson yesterday, if not yet done, or there is any related to the first the topic that you're going to teach today. Because if you're going to jump off to another topic, to another lesson, the students will be curious, the students will be you can get any reaction that what is this? Is this the same yesterday, or like something like that? So you need to connect your lesson to the previous. Your lesson today must connected to the previous lesson that you teach to them. And then what information should be in my lecture? Is it all relevant? So we need that one also. And then what specific activities will engage students, and source activities that is related to your topic. And then what higher order question will I ask? Okay, so order question higher. So if you can see that if they already get or understand the lesson that you teach, so you can give them some high question that can challenge to them to think. Okay, and then how long will each part take? Okay, you must do that one. So for example, this day your topic is all about for example, your topic is all about the we give for the verb, example for the verb. Okay, for that verb, so the verb is an action word, so how could you take it? You can make it long or short, but for me, if I'm going to teach about that, for example, verb, so verb is an action word, so I must do some action, and I'm going to ask the students if they understand, so what is a verb, or I will, for example, jump, so that's the example of jump, verb, action. So I'm going to ask them, okay, can you give me some example of, you can see if they understand you. What supplies do I need? Okay, the number 6 is review. Be sure the plan is realistic. Of course. Okay, review. You need to review before you're going to end up your lesson. Before you're going to say goodbye to your students, you must review the lesson that you taught them, that you teach them. Okay, our lecture is too long. How can they be shortened? Is the plan well organized? As I said, that you need to be, you have the guidelines, lesson plan, how to teach, because if sample that one, you have the topic, and then you explain everything, and then at the last part of your teaching, you're giving the what is this, what do you call this, I forgot, you're giving the definition of about the topic on the last part, so that is not good. Next, where should, okay, where's did I address students' misconceptions? How have I addressed multiple learning styles? Okay, number 7 is revise. Make needed changes. Are my plans clearly written and detailed enough so I'll remember what I wanted to say? Okay, you need to revise the lesson. For example, if you consider that, oh, it's so very broad already, it's okay, you're only going to revise it. Then that's the content and or the activities aligned with course level. How do I know? So will the student understand what I want them to learn? Okay, as what I said a while ago, that if you're going to teach the student, your goal there is, your aim there is to they understand the way you teach, they understand you're teaching the lesson that you teach to them, if they're learning or not. Is the time realistic? So should be. Okay, number 8, teach. Present the lesson. Okay, as what I said a while ago, that you need to present your lesson. Do I need to speed up or slow down? Is the activity working? So the first step, you need to teach them step by step. Or so you're not going to, and then if you're going to teach them, you're going to talk. So your talk slow, only slow, very slow, not is a very slow, that is only so that they can easy to catch up and easy to understand and listen to you. And then if the activity is working, so you can see if it is workable for them or not. Should I ask more question to the student to more all students understand? So should. Now we should ask that question also for the student, because by asking question to the students, you can see if they learn, if they get some lesson, and if they are listening to you. Okay, then do I need to give another example? Yes, we need to give another example, because if you're giving some example and then they did not get it, so there is some student that they did not understand, so you must give another example to them, so that they can easy to them to understand, and then they can get it. Because if you're going to give only one example, if you're going to them only one example, there is some student that they don't understand, they did not get it already. So you must, if you have more time, then you can give them 2 to 3 examples, and then if you're going to ask them, okay, do you understand the lesson? Did you get how the step by step to solve the problem? And then should I restate what I just said in a different way? So maybe you're not when you're teaching, you're not going to use, what is this? You're not going to use some hard to understand to them, the terms. So as much as possible, you're going to use some words that they're really related to them. Because if you're going to use some words that there's not related to them, it's hard to them to understand. Okay, and then assess. So reflect on how to improve the plan. How did it go? Did the students learn what I want them to learn? So as much as possible, if you want your students learn the lesson that you want them to learn, explain it very well, teach them well, and then give them more examples so that they understand the lesson that you are teaching to them. And what can I do to help students who just didn't get it? Of course, what can I do to help students? Okay, you're going to, of course, after you teach them, then after you giving them some examples, and then you give them 2 or 3 more examples, and then they did not get. There is some students that is not what do you call this? It's already on my tongue, but I cannot. What do you forgot? There is a term that the student cannot. What is? Oh, wait. I will think first. Okay. Okay, I remember already. There is some student that is fast learner, and there is some student that is low. So what can I do to help students who just didn't get it? So simple. You need to ask them if okay, class, do you understand the lesson that what I teach today? Okay, there are some students that are going to answer, yes, teacher, we understand. And then there is some student that we're going to answer to you that, no, teacher, we didn't. That's okay. After the class, you are talk to the students, and then you're going to teach her or him, or guide him or her, and then you can approach that student that, okay, if you're not understand, you can ask, I will teach you. Okay, you can teach them you can teach her or him one by one, and then so that they can understand you. Okay, how can I challenge students who found the class or activity too easy or finish early? So how can I challenge students? Okay, how can I challenge students who found the class or activity too easy or finish early? So you're going to give them the hard, not easy problem. You're going to give them the problem that hard in the example that you given to them. And then what revisions do I need to make for next time? Revision I need to give them, make them next time need to, what is that? You need to revise your lesson. Revise, but it's related also to your previous topic. Okay, and that's all for today. That is my part. And then I hope you understand the lesson that I explained this morning, and thank you. Keep safe.
Reflection is a systematic reviewing process for teachers which allows you to make links from one experience to the next, making sure your students make maximum progress. Reflective questioning is a technique in which the mentor asks questions designed to encourage the beginning teacher to discuss and analyze her or his practice. It should always start with the six strategic questions: what, when, who, where, why, and how. Asking reflective questions allows the mentor to initiate conversation that encourage critical thinking, prompt the beginning teacher to explore his or her ideas and make sense of them. To ask reflective questions, ask open-ended questions based on the beginning teacher's immediate experience. Follow up with the questions that elicit more information or deeper thought. Hold back when you are tempted to give advice. Example of reflective questions. First, what did you learn from using this problem with your student? About math, about individual students, about your class, about your student thinking in general. Second, what, if anything, will you do differently if you use this problem again? Third, comment on how your class, individual students, or as a whole may have benefited from their work on this problem. Fourth, did students get what you wanted them to get from the problem? How do you know? Fifth, what challenges came up for students that you didn't expect? Six, what strategies, solution methods, questions came out and seemed helpful to the student? And last, what advice, message do you have for a teacher who is considering using this problem with your class?
So let us have an example on how to process questions for effective teaching. So for example, we have a classroom scenario in which teacher will give a problem to his or her students. The problem is multiples of 9. Find the smallest multiple of 9 that has only even digits. Please show all your work. So as the first reflective question, why I choose this problem? So let us assume that I am the teacher in the classroom scenario. I recently discovered this problem and I really like it for a number of reasons. First, it requires a little bit of vocabulary in order to get started. Students will have to know what a multiple is. They will have to know what digits are. And more specifically, how digits can differ from numbers. They'll have to understand the difference between even and odd numbers. I also like how non-intimidating it looks at first glance. How hard could it be to find the multiples of 9 that has only even digits? I shouldn't have to count up very far. Because the problems doesn't look lengthy and challenging, it comes as a surprise when the correct answer is actually the 32nd multiple of 9. I anticipate a lot of students writing out 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, and 54, etc. And then getting frustrated or giving up when they don't get the answer fairly quickly. Second, I like that the problem requires students to perform basic calculations and that it requires precision in order to get the answer right without making mistakes. Also, the repetition involved in either adding 9 over and over or multiplying by 9 over and over is helpful for students with lower math abilities, and it still provides good practice for students who are more comfortable working with numbers. Moreover, the 9 times tables are interesting because of the pattern that arises in the tens digit and the ones digit. My hope is that the students start listing out the multiples of 9. They will be able to use the pattern and work with it. I like exposing my students to several different ways of thinking about multiplication. My hope is that they find one that works for them. And finally, I really like this problem because there are good extension questions. If a student finishes early, they can find the next smaller multiple and then the next one. Once everyone has had plenty of time to work, the class can talk about divisibility test and they could work on finding all the 3-digit multiples of 9 that have only even digits and so on. So why this is a DOK3 problem? So DOK is a depth of knowledge. Depth of knowledge refers to the level of thinking a certain question requires to formulate an answer. So the problem is the OK problem because it invites multiple approaches, and even though there is a correct answer, students need to be able to explain why the number they choose is the correct one. They also have to analyze each multiple they come up with to make sure that the both digits are even. It anticipates several students saying that something like 36 or 72 is correct because it has an even number. Depending on how quickly students finish, they might be asked to investigate the pattern that shows up in the multiples of 9 that only have even digits. Students could then be asked to draw a conclusion about the pattern. So what is my goal for student learning? So another reflective question. In a classroom scenario, still assume that I am the teacher. So this problem is intended for a class of new students with low math levels, many of whom struggles with multiplication, and it is going to take a while for most of them to finish. My goal is for them to stick with the problem and not get discouraged as the numbers start getting bigger and bigger. I am giving this problem during the first week of class, and my sense is that the students are not used to struggling with math problems for long periods of time. Another goal is for students to come up with an organized approach to tackling this problem. That is, I would like to see some students create tables or lists rather than simply start multiplying 9 by randomly chosen numbers. Also, because it's so early in the cycle, I would like to see my students feel comfortable talking about the work and the work of their peers. So, the challenges for students. The first challenge I anticipate involves the vocabulary and phrasing of the problem. Because I will be working on this problem with a group of new students. They have only recently been introduced to multiples and factors. They will likely need a quick refresher. Similarly, I expect students to struggle with the idea of even digits, and we may have to talk about it as a group to make sure that everyone is in the same page before we get started. I also expect students to have a hard time organizing their work and expect to see these mistakes with basic computation as the multiples get higher and higher. This will require me to interview somewhat to help students spot their mistake, either with adding or multiplying depending on their approach. I think that some students will want to give up after they found the first 15 or 20 multiples of 9. They might think that it's a trick questions and that there actually are not any multiples of 9 that have only even digits. To support students who are struggling with this problem, I will help them identify mathematical mistakes so that they can correct them as they go along. I will tell them that they made a mistake, though instead I'll ask them to talk about how they get from the number to the next so that they can see the mistake for themselves. I think that some students will notice the pattern in multiples of 9, increasing tens digit, decreasing one digit. And so I will help them to articulate it and apply it to the work that they are doing. For those students who work all the way through it and don't see the pattern, I will ask them to look over their work and talk to me about the changes that they see to the digits. I expect that some students will try to guess and check their way through the problems, which could potentially make it take a very long time. I will talk to these students about ways they might be able to organize their guesses so that they don't lose track of the work they're already done. So students will have different approaches to answer the said question. So by answering process of reflection question, students and teachers are really focusing on their own methods as learners and teachers. Answering these sort of questions help them to understand their strengths and weaknesses in the learning process. So this is all for our report. Thank you and God bless us all.